couple of us, Kate and Avery and I, are a little bit perturbed about how this 16-year-old boy, just because he grew up in the mines and he grew up with hardship, that he's all of a sudden a strategist. He can win in fights. He's physically really superior. He's mentally really superior. He's got that unique way of thinking. His shit don't stink.
To be fair, it's super tropey in the main character. Like someone mentioned the main character syndrome thing. It absolutely is, because it's like, I'm the best hell diver. I'm suddenly like the best gold dude. Like I'm good at everything because I have plot armor and I'm the best. That's a super IA tropes thing. That's like a thing. One of the also things I'm kind of like, yeah, I can see it, is essentially all these golds are like spoiled rich kids, right? It's all like
pampered
dude who's like has to be street smart and everything. So it's kind of like, yeah, he would be better at them than like pretty much everything except for probably like the politicking, because you don't really have to do that when you're like super just working in the dirt, you know. But so on one hand, it's like he has that kind of like just like, oh, of course he's good at everything because he's the main character. But at the same time, these are all coddled, spoiled children that he's going against. So you know,
but
they're not going to be good at a lot of things.
But they lived that life. Like they lived that life and were able to talk like that
like,
and had all the games.
He doesn't have the like manipulation, the backstabbing, the kind of like where
The
you're
cunning.
like playing both sides, like that kind of.
No, he's got rage.
He doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah, I just thought
before I forget.
Yes, Thierry.
It also reminded me of Neo from The Matrix.
Oh yes. We're gonna upload all the skills that you need, and now you can all of a sudden do all of it.
Get picked up, showed what the reality is, and then mold to become the savior.
I will say though, I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077, and it's just like really interesting to see how you can upgrade your body, and it's like that the upgrade scene, you know what I mean? The part of the book where they are increasing his bone density, they are, you know, making his pores flawless. They are completely changing who he is so he looks perfect. I just think it's really interesting how it goes into sort of like what money can get you, where you just won't have flaws anymore. I'm reading out some. To be fair.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll let you finish your thought.
No, go because I'm going to.
Well, I was going to say, to be fair.
To be fair,
Darrow being, 16 or 17 years old, but he's probably more equivalent to being like 28 or 29, because
I agree.
The Reds, their lifespan is 30 something, right? 35,
remember we all were just kind of like, Uncle Nero was well past his prime, or like, he was an old man at 35. And we're all reading this being like, oh.
Yeah. So, when you're saying like he's 16, how is he this amazing person that's the best at anything? Well, but also he's closer to 28 in his prime of life.
Because they would have started working him when he was 10 or 11. They're married at 14. Yeah.
Yep. When you consider lifespan, he's actually in his prime.
No, I agree. I think the issue that I have is that he spent that entire time only knowing one tiny portion of not only other occupations, other cultures, but like other planets. He's like hundreds of years behind where the development has gone. So it's like he had to learn. Yes, he's really, really good at what he does, but that is a minuscule prick on everything else that exists. Like, dude didn't see a horse, and now he's like got to be pro at riding one. I don't know. I do hear you on that. He's adapted from not knowing anything outside of what he did know.
They did have the videos that were shown all over the place, so he did know there was an outside world, another thing he didn't experience. He didn't know a lot of details.
The HC.
Yes, it was propaganda. Yes, it was propaganda. It wouldn't be that far for him to be like, oh, this other world that I knew existed, it does exist, but it's different. So I can kind of see how he would be able to grow into that a little easier.
Okay. I'll allow that. Avery makes a really good point here though, which I really like, and that is it would have made more sense for him to be a mid-draft who rises up. But the fact that he's in top 10 and he's a top draft like straight out the gate, maybe you're right. Like let him keep figuring it out. Like he's now in lived experience, he's starting to learn and he's getting better and better because he knows what he has to do and he needs to survive.
Perfect example of that mod is I just posted in the chat about how my favorite character is Severo.
Yeah,
Goblin. Was the second to last pick, so he has that story where it's like he has to raise himself up from the ranks.
Yes.
Where it's like if Darrow had to do that, it would have seemed less like main character things. He hasn't really had any kind of fight in trying to change himself down to the very DNA. It's just like all the training that they put him through always seemed just like a fight montage in a Rocky movie. It was just like whatever. So if he had been a lower pick, like where he would have been like a whole scene where he was worried about not even getting picked after all of this stuff, that I feel like would have been more interesting.
Okay. You think that was too much of a shortcut, main character syndrome. B-Rock Vandal says, should Darrow have been older than 16? But I think Tim kind of makes the point that he is technically older than 16 because they age a lot faster because of how their lifestyle is. Like 35 is an old man. 35 is a grandpa as well. But only there. Only there. Blomel says the Golds really haven't lived a life where they weren't given most things, so they're just not used to hardship. Vaden says even the politicking, Darrow seems comparatively good. It doesn't make much sense to me that the gods would not train their kids from birth to become the best. Instead, they just wait until they're teenagers and throw them into the gold chipper. Nice. You're exactly right. I had that thought a couple of times as well, where it's like if they had to go through that process and it's their child and they're like, well, there's vigorous sort of like Darwinism here where it's the survival of the fittest. You're exactly right. You would tell them everything that happens in this particular mission or in the passage. You would tell them what they need to do. You'd supply them with all the information, the strategy, the scheming, the skill sets. Because I think the perfect example of that was Priam and Julian, where there was an assumption that they'd just be fine because they were from status, they were from money, they were from affluence, and when push came to shove, they actually weren't strong enough to survive. Yeah, that was a bit of a loophole for me as well, Vaden. I think that's a really good point because the parents went through it to stay a gold.
Yeah, like even Julian, like he thinks like when he gets put in the room with Darrow, like he just thinks, oh, we're just gonna walk out here, everything will be fine, we can talk this out.
So naive. I need it more than you do, Darrow. I really need this. My family will be so devastated. They will like absolutely disown me because I haven't gotten this. I need it more than you. You don't come from a good family. You must just give it to me. Just give it to me and walk away. Darrow's like,
nope. They just punches him. It's like, yeah, literally got punched. Literally got slapped with the reality.
Oh, he died learning that lesson.